Hello, everybody. It is time for my 2014 Big 12 previews to continue as we get closer to the start of the season. The team that I have picked to finish third in the Big 12 is the Kansas State Wildcats. And the way last season started, you never would have thought that K-State would have finished their year on such a high note, because last season, you might remember, they started the year by losing to an FCS squad. Granted, they're good at North Dakota State, but North Dakota State has fewer scholarships than any FBS school out there, including K-State. And the Wildcats at home that night got stunned. Remember, at that time, K-State was ranked top 25 in the country, and North Dakota State went into Manhattan and came out with the win. In fact, K-State lost 4 of their first 6 games, but then figured things out, offensively got better, defensively did as well for the most part, and the Wildcats, other than a loss to Oklahoma in late November, ended up winning all their games down the stretch, and also capped off the season with an upset win over Michigan in the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl. So coming off 8-5, another excellent coaching job for Bill Snyder, considering the rough start that they got off to. And this season, several key contributors are back for a team that some people think could be the sleeper in the Big 12 and win the league. We'll see. 2014, Jake Waters, quarterback. Now, entering last season, he had some big shoes to fill because he was replacing a legend there and a Heisman Trophy finalist in Colin Klein, who was Mr. Zone Read. He ran that offense to near perfection to Colin Klein. So, it wasn't easy for Waters at all to step in and take over from where Klein left off. And remember, Bill Snyder, he's known for developing quarterbacks. We saw that with Chad May in the early 90s and the late 90s with the Heisman Trophy runner-up finisher in Michael Bishop. Of course, L. Roberson had a good career there. Jonathan Beasley, he was a contributor too. And, of course, most recently, Colin Klein. So last year, Waters, I thought, did a nice job, especially the way they finished the year with 2,500 yards plus passing and also contributing with 18 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. So 2-to-1 ratio as far as TD to interceptions for Waters. This could be, by the way, one of the best quarterback to receiving tandems in the country. Anytime Waters throws it to Tyler Lockett. And I have a question for any Kansas State fan out there, or, by the way, for those in the Tulsa area who are familiar with Booker T. Washington, okay? Are there going to be any more Locketts that go to Kansas State, okay? As a Sooner fan, I'm hopeful this is the last one. And ironically, the Locketts, originate from Oklahoma, as we mentioned, from Tulsa. And, Booker T. Tyler Lockett is the son of Kevin Lockett, who really made his name known, basically, ironically, at the same position at wide receiver, was a speedster and also special teams kick returner as well, a generation before. And, by the way, Tyler is the nephew of Aaron Lockett, who, in the late 90s, early 2000s, had a heck of a career as well. Both went on to play professional football, did Kevin and Aaron. Aaron more so in Canadian football, though. But Tyler, All-American already. First or second team All-American, depending on your source. Last season, coming off 81 catches, over 1,200 yards receiving, 11 touchdowns. That's fat. And, by the way, when he was in high school, was clocked under 11 seconds in the 100 blazing speed Tyler Lockett possesses, and he'll be a threat at wideout, but of course, returning kicks and punch, you got to watch out for him. It's very dangerous. So who will complement him? Well, thought it was going to be Daniel Sams, the one-time quarterback, running back. Thought they were going to have him, but from what I've gathered, I guess not long ago, decided to transfer to an FCS school. So that really caught me out of nowhere, caught me for a loop. So Corey Sexton or DeAndre Burton, they'll really have to complement Lockett. And if they could do that, then because of their contributions, Lockett should really, at that point, shine. Otherwise, defenses will pay a lot of attention to Lockett, and that's going to really limit him. The ground game is going to be the big mystery for Kansas State because you lost a good one in John Hubert, a multi-year starter last year, coming off a year in which he had nearly 1,100 yards on the ground. You're going to miss that along with his combined total of 11 touchdowns. So I don't expect them to be as good in the ground game, but as long as these guys contribute, I think Kansas State, again, should be able to be balanced. And we're talking about a guy by the name of Charles Jones, Looks like will be the starter come opening day against Stephen F. Austin, and backing him up is going to be DeMarcus Robinson. So we're going to see how Kansas State's ground game adapts without Hubert. And at fullback, love this name, Glenn Gronkowski. If that name sounds familiar, it should. His brother, Rob Gronkowski, plays for the New England Patriots. Offensive line, think they'll be good as well. You'll have B.J. Finney at center, 3-time All Big 12 honor player in some way, shape, or form. So he's back for another year. And then a guy that played guard, Cody Whitehair, 6'4", nearly 310 pounds. From what I've heard, they're going to move him to the left tackle position. And at guard, you have Boston Stiverson. So expect to see that zone read offense that defenses sometimes have a fit with. And, of course, how appropriate. Don't be surprised if you see them run a lot of Wildcat formation. On defense, you have Ryan Mueller. And the Big 12, I'm telling you what, they've got terrific defensive ends. Talk about Charles Tapper at Oklahoma. And, of course, Cedric Reed on my recent report for Texas. These guys can play as well. Jimmy Bean at Oklahoma State, same thing. But Ryan Mueller, could he be the best of the bunch? You can make an argument for him. 11.5 sacks a year ago. I think he's a true blue-collar guy for KSU. And Travis Britz, you return him. And this guy's more known for special teams, if you ask me. Already 4 blocked kicks in his career. That's fat right there. At linebacker, you have Jonathan Truman. Last season was second on the team in tackles. But I think this is an area of concern for Kansas State because who is going to surround him as far as being able to make plays? You have a guy in Will Davis who will have to really step up and help out Truman there. The secondary, for the most part, a safe area for Kansas State. I don't think you have a lot of concern there. With Randall Evans at a corner, they could use him as nickelback. Now, I remember last season watching the Oklahoma game in which Evans just laid a devastating hit, and the announcers called it a slobber knocker. I thought I was watching the WWE and listening to J.R. Ross describe the Stone Cold Steve Austin match. Because that's really the last time I heard anybody use the term slobber knocker. And I know J.R. Ross, that was one of his coined phrases, back when he was doing the WWE as far as announcing. But you have Randall Evans, who lay a lick on you, and also at free safety, Dylan Schellenberg. So that's going to be an area right there where I think you can feel good about those two positions. But you are going to miss Ty Zimmerman at safety. The team's going to have to really adapt to football without him because he played each of his 4 years there. And, he was a very coachable player for Bill Snyder, did whatever was asked to do. And so it's going to seem weird to watch a Kansas State team play on defense and not have Ty Zimmerman back there to defend passes. Special teams, they do return the place kicker, but they will have a freshman starting at punter. It is time to talk about the Wildcats schedule, and they will open the season with Stephen F. Austin. Now, that's not going to make you shake in your boots. And then later on, there's a non-conference game that doesn't occur until late September against UTEP. That's on the 27th. But you can forgive Kansas State for playing those 2 cream puffs because mid-September on a Thursday night, September the 18th, circle it. It's one of the big non-conference games of the season, and it'll prove where Kansas State fits nationally because they host Auburn, last year's national runners-up. I'm telling you what, if you're an Auburn fan watching this, Bill Snyder Family Memorial Stadium, take it from a Big 12 guy, one of the hardest places to win in college football, and that game's going to be at night, so it's going to be psychotic like you wouldn't believe. Kansas State, they can win that game. They become big-time national relevant, and in terms of the Big 12, as far as competing for that title, Oklahoma and Baylor will definitely have company at that point because K-State would have arrived if they could beat Nick Marshall on that Auburn offense. Conference season, by the way, will start very early. It's just the second game of the year, September the 6th at Iowa State. And then October, the schedule really gets cooking Big 12-wise. You host Texas Tech, a team that the Wildcats have had a lot of success against. You have 2 weeks to prepare for Oklahoma. And keep in mind that the Sooners played Texas the week before, so you might be catching the Sooners at a good time. Last time K-State went to Norman, they beat the Sooners thanks to forcing turnovers. And then October 25th, you host Texas. It's another team that K-State has had a lot of success against. They lost to them last year for the first time in a while, but they haven't lost to the Longhorns in Manhattan in 11 seasons. And November, you host Oklahoma State, go to TCU the following week, and then 12 days later, you go to West Virginia, you go to Morgantown, and I believe that's another Thursday night game, and you get your hated rivals from Lawrence, the Jayhawks from Kansas. That's a late November game, and then you close out the year. While other conferences are playing their championship games, this game might have a championship-type atmosphere because you go to Waco and play Baylor. And remember 2 years ago, Kansas State was undefeated, looking like they're maybe in position for that national championship, and Baylor that night waxed them. And that was in a year where Baylor was rebuilding after Robert Griffin III had left. And then last year, K-State was a big underdog, played Baylor very tough, but the Bears outlasted the Wildcats in Manhattan. This year's game is in Waco. And that game could have a lot of Big 12 and maybe national title implications involved. Best case scenario for K-State, I think it could very well be an 11-1 season. If there's ever a coach out there that could, make a season that you thought was going to be good even better, it is Bill Snyder, because he does know personnel, he does know X's and O's, and K-State does win as an underdog more times than you might think. That schedule, yeah, there are some rough stretches on it. But keep in mind, too, a lot of playmakers return. 11-1, not out of the question. Worst case scenario, it could go 7-5 for this team. We will see if that really comes into reality. It would come into reality if the ground attack misses John Hubert that much. If that happens, they're going to be way too reliant on that combination of Waters to Lockett, and defenses will eventually be able to figure that out. So 7-5. Remember, Auburn's on the schedule, and you go to Oklahoma and Baylor, arguably the two best teams in the Big 12. Won't be easy at all. And you can't overlook Texas, and also too, you can't overlook OSU or Tech. My overall prediction for Kansas State is going to be a really good year. I've got 9-3 for their finish and 7-2 in league play. And that means a third place finish. I think they'll give Auburn all they want, but Auburn, right now, they've got so much talent. I think that Auburn survives that game despite it being a road game at night. K-State, 9-3, 7-2, third place finish in the Big 12. That's my look at the Wildcats. My next preview is coming soon. Thanks.